We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Bangladesh President dissolves parliament, says interim government to be formed. India keeps a close watch. UN calls for calm and restraint. India's President Draupadi Murmu conferred with the highest civilian award of Fiji, the Companion of the Order of Fiji. Addressing the Parliament of Fiji, says India is ready to engage with Fiji on all fronts. Iran says it doesn't want regional escalation but must punish Israel for the Hamas chief's bombing. US says all parties must refrain from escalation. Russian Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu in Tehran. US Democratic candidate Kamala Harris campaign to announce vice presidential running mate ahead of the pair's first campaign rally. And in sports, Armand Duplantis sets a new world record of 6.25 meters after winning gold in the men's pole vault at the Paris Olympics. Well, on to the details now. After weeks of protest by students and others, Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned and left the country. Thousands of protesters marched to Sheikh Hasina's official residence before she quit. Bangladesh International Airport was closed for 6 hours on Monday. Bangladesh Army Chief General Waqar Uzzaman, in a televised address to the nation, said that an interim government will be formed soon to replace the 15-year-old Hasina government.
Bangladesh witnessed a high-level drama on Monday, and just after this, the political crisis deepened further. Following massive protests, the country's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned and fled the country. The move came a day after deadly clashes across Bangladesh killed more than 90 people.
Don't lose faith in the army. God willing, we will fulfill your demands and bring peace and harmony back to the country. I request to you all to support the army and stop the violence, murders, hooliganism and the protest.
The visuals on your screen are of protesters storming Hasina's official residence, Ghana Bhavan. They gathered in large numbers on the streets of the capital Dhaka in jubilation. Angry protesters marched on the streets of Dhaka in Bangladesh following Sheikh Hasina's resignation.
I feel very happy. It feels like we are liberated again. That's why we all came down on the road. My husband and I are fasting today and praying to Almighty.
The celebrations were not just limited to Dhaka. Bangladeshis also celebrated in other parts of the world, including London.
The military has taken over the power, and there will be a neutral administration. There will be free and fair elections in the country, and we will have democratic government. That's why we are victorious today.
Some analysts say that tough economic conditions and political opportunism were among the factors for the unrest in the country.
I would also look at it as an economic factor, and clearly, of course, as we have always said, opportunists, whether it's the opposition BNP or it's the Jamaat-e-Islami, which is the radical, pro-Pakistan Islamist grouping that is very active on the streets, they have joined the protests and they have actually brought in that violence into the protests. You cannot rule out the involvement of foreign powers who are inimical to Bangladesh's interests and frankly to our security interests also.
Meanwhile, India's border security force has been put on high alert following political unrest in the neighbouring country. As per reports, the India-Bangladesh Petropol border has been closed. Air India has cancelled the scheduled operation of flights to and from Dhaka with immediate effect in view of the emerging situation in Bangladesh. Last month, at least 150 people were killed and thousands injured in violence touched off by student groups protesting against quotas for government jobs. Sunday's death toll, which included at least 13 policemen, was the highest for a single day from any protesters in Bangladesh's recent history. Bureau Report, DD India.
And India's Cabinet Committee on Security met at Lok Kalyan Marg on Monday and was briefed about the situation in Bangladesh. The meeting was attended by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and Home Minister Amit Shah, among others. Well, the United Nations has called for restraint and urged that formation of an interim government in the South Asian nation be democratic after Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned and fled the country. UN Secretary General has urged a calm and restraint by all sides and emphasized the importance of a peaceful, orderly and democratic transition.
We're watching the situation in the country very closely. We continue to call for calm and restraint and to urge all parties to respect the right to peaceful assembly and expression. We urge security forces to protect those out on the streets of Dhaka and other cities of Bangladesh. You'll have seen that the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, issued a statement yesterday in which he called for violence in the country to stop. He added that accountability for human rights violations, including those with superior and command responsibility, is crucial. The international community must make it clear that at this pivotal time, there will be no impunity.
Well, U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that the United States is closely monitoring the situation in Bangladesh and urged the interim government formation process to be democratic and inclusive.
We have seen the announcement that Prime Minister Hasina resigned from her position and departed Bangladesh. We are monitoring the situation carefully. The United States stands with the people of Bangladesh. We urge all parties to refrain from further violence. Too many lives have been lost over the course of the past several weeks, and we urge calm and restraint in the days ahead. We welcome the announcement of an interim government and urge any transition be conducted in accordance with Bangladesh's laws.
And India's President Draupadi Murmu arrived in Suva, the capital of Fiji, on the first leg of a three-nation visit. President Murmu was received by Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka of Fiji at the airport and accorded a ceremonial welcome by the Republic of Fiji military force. She is the first Indian president to visit Fiji. Earlier, school children in the capital Suva cheered and waved flags to welcome President Draupadi Murmu. After an affectionate welcome by the children on the way from airport, a traditional welcome ceremony was organized in honor of President Draupadi Murmu in presence of Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka of Fiji. Also, President of India Draupadi Murmu was conferred with the highest civilian award of Fiji, the Companion of the Order of Fiji, by her Fijian counterpart William Katunivere at State House today. And highlighting strong relations between India and Fiji, India's President Draupadi Murmu, while addressing the Parliament of Fiji, said that India is ready to engage with Fiji on all fronts.
10 years ago, speaking in this same hall, Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, had underlined some basic values that unite India and Fiji. These include our democracy, the diversity of our societies, our creed that all human beings are equal, and our commitment to the liberty, dignity, and rights of every individual. These shared values are eternal and shall continue to guide us ahead.
And as India completes 75 years of diplomatic relations with Fiji, President Murmu praised the high level of engagement between the two countries.
As we celebrate the 75 years of India's diplomatic presence in Fiji, I am pleased to see the strong growth in our high-level engagements, development projects, and our people-centric activities. In the last 18 months alone, 15 ministerial level visits have taken place on both the sides. The historic meeting of both our prime ministers in May 2023 during the FIPIC 3 summit has given new energy and direction to our bilateral ties.
President Murmu further reiterated both countries' commitment to fight against climate change and to work towards sustainable development.
We are also conscious of the many serious challenges common to us, the foremost one being the fight against climate change and the rise in sea level, which is a threat to many ocean states. Under our G20 presidency last year, we have high priority to the two topics of sustainable development and climate change. We made One Earth, One Family, One Future the theme of our G20 presidency.
Well, moving on, tensions in the West Asia have been soaring as Iran and its allies readied their response to the assassination of Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh and a key commander of the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah in Beirut, blaming on Israel, spurring fears of a regional war. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson said on Monday that Iran is not looking to escalate regional tensions, but believes it must punish Israel to prevent further instability. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant told Air Force commanders to prepare for anything, including a swift transition to offense. Here's a report.
Amid the rising tension in West Asia, Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson on Monday said Iran is not looking to escalate regional tensions but believes it needs to punish Israel to prevent further instability, following the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran last week. The spokesperson called on the United States to stop supporting Israel, saying the international community had failed in its duty to safeguard stability in the region and should support the punishment of the aggressor.
In using its inherent right based on the principles and rules and regulations of international law, the Islamic Republic of Iran will definitely take serious and deterrent action with strength, determination and firmness in ensuring its security and punishing the aggressor.
Meanwhile, an emergency meeting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation will be held on Wednesday at Iran's request to discuss the killing of Haniyeh and Iran's response. Tehran and Iran-aligned groups killing Haniyeh on 31st July. As the threat of war looms in, United States is deploying additional military might in West Asia as a defensive measure with the goal of de-escalating tensions in the region. U.S. news service Axios reported that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken told his counterpart from G7 countries that Iran and Hezbollah could start attacking Israel as early as Monday, citing 3 sources briefed on the call. But Blinken, according to Axios, said it was unclear how Iran and Hezbollah would attack and did not know the exact timing. Russia's Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu arrived in Tehran on Monday for talks with the Iranian leadership, including President Masoud Pezeshkian. Shoigu and Pezeshkian will discuss regional and global security in addition to various bilateral issues. Amid fears of a full-scale conflict on the horizon, Lebanon received emergency medical supplies to equip its hospitals for possible war injuries. On Monday, the World Health Organization delivered 32 tons of medical supplies to Lebanon's health ministry, including at least 1,000 trauma kits to treat possible war wounded. Hospitals in southern Lebanon, where most of the tit-for-tat exchanges between Hezbollah and the Israeli military have taken place, are worn down by year-long economic meltdown and have struggled to cope with wounded patients over the last 10 months. Dheeraj Das's report for DD India.
Well, as tensions rise in West Asia, tens of thousands of foreign nationals are trying to leave Lebanon following warnings from a number of embassies to leave. With Iran and its proxies threatening to attack neighboring Israel, many international airlines have suspended their services to the Lebanese capital, prompting a scramble from foreign nationals to try and secure a seat out. From Beirut, DD India's Trent Murray has more.
Well, there's been long lines at Beirut International Airport as tens of thousands of foreign nationals here heed their respective governments' advice and try to leave this country as concerns grow. It could be on the brink of seeing a major war. We know a number of embassies have issued urgent warnings for people to leave, but it's just not that simple because there's not that many airlines flying here anymore. Certainly the European carriers, the big ones like British Airways, Lufthansa, Air France have all suspended their services. There really is only a handful of airlines now left from the Middle East, including Qatar, Emirates, Egypt Air and Turkish that are still flying here. But for people trying to leave, securing a seat is very difficult. Demand is exceeding capacity. The flights are sold out for many days ahead, and they're also incredibly expensive. So we do know that there is some concern amongst Western governments in particular about what would happen if a conflict was to break out while people were still here and unable to leave. Back in 2006, when this country saw a war with Israel, then Beirut International Airport was bombed by the Israelis and was taken out of service. Given it's the only airport in the country, that left foreign governments with the difficult task of actually trying to evacuate people via the sea on ships and ferries to neighbouring Cyprus. Of course, we know some of that contingency planning is taking place right now. We can verify that based on what US and other officials are saying in different embassies, but they are hoping that it won't come to that. They're hoping that either tensions can be subsided or foreign nationals can get out still using commercial services. But it does really come at a time where tensions do still remain high. The rhetoric continues to be ratcheted up. And we know both Iran and Lebanon's based Hezbollah are continuing to send a strong signal that a big attack on Israel is still coming. Trent Murray for DD India, Beirut.
And amid growing concerns about the risk of an Iranian attack on Israel, US President Joe Biden held crisis talks with his national security team on Monday. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris were briefed by the national security team on the situation in the West Asia, including threats posed by Iran and its proxies to Israel and US service members. They were also briefed about an attack on Iraq's Al-Assad airbase on Monday and discussed the US response. Biden and Harris were also updated on US efforts to support Israel militarily if it is attacked and diplomatic efforts to de-escalate regional tension and reach a ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza. And US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said escalation in the West Asia is not in anyone's interest. Blinken said the US was engaged in intense diplomacy to help calm tensions amid fears Iran is preparing a retaliatory strike against Israel. During a signing ceremony with his Australian counterpart in Washington, Blinken said all parties must refrain from escalation. Blinken, in his remarks, also called for parties to break this cycle of violence and agree a ceasefire in the Gaza conflict. The US Secretary of State said it is urgent that all parties make the right choices in the hours and days ahead. And at least 5 US personnel were wounded in an attack on Iraq's Al-Assad airbase on Monday. The suspected rocket attack took place at US and coalition forces at Al-Assad airbase. According to security sources, 2 Katyusha rockets were fired at the base in western Iraq. The attack comes as much of the West Asia remains on high alert. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Storm Debby churned towards Georgia and Carolinas, drenching northern Florida.
We have with us shooter Arjun Babuta. You ended 4th in this edition of Paris Games. What do you have to say about your performance?
I just finished 4th and it is very close to the medal pace, but overall I try my best and I'm proud of it. I belong to a middle class family and it was very challenging for us to get all these expensive equipments and to maintain those expenses. I'm very thankful to TOPS for all this, and it played a big role in my success.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Napakshi Kurana. And moving on, U.S. Democratic candidate Kamala Harris is expected to announce a vice presidential pick in the coming hours ahead of the pair's first campaign rally. Harris has reportedly cut a pool of possible running mates down to just 2. As Nikapa reports for more from Washington.
Well, we thought Monday was going to be the day when Vice President Kamala Harris announced her vice presidential pick. However, that was not the case, that announcement being pushed back to Tuesday. It's not clear still what form that announcement will take. Remember, when Joe Biden announced his vice president, Kamala Harris, back in 2000, he did it in an email that was quickly followed up by a video, and the thinking is that we could see something similar, an email to supporters, a video put on various social media platforms. But of course all of that will come before the late Tuesday afternoon rally that Kamala Harris and her vice presidential pick will be holding in the city of Philadelphia in the important swing state of Pennsylvania. Now, it seems as if her cast of about 6 or 7 candidates has now been whittled down to just 2. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro and Tim Walz, the Minnesota governor. Those seem to be the final 2 in contention. We know that they had meetings with Kamala Harris, interviews over the course of the weekend at her private residence in Washington, D.C., and it really is now a wait-and-see situation. We know that after that rally on Tuesday, the 2 of them will then embark on a tour of about 6 or 7 other swing states, the likes of Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, all places that could make or break her chances of winning the election in November. So a crucial decision ahead. It's still not clear if she has finally made it or if that's something that she'll come to the decision on Tuesday morning ahead of informing the public of who she wants to be her running mate for the 2024 election. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Well, counter-protesters have gathered across multiple cities in the United Kingdom where far-right activists had planned more demonstrations this evening. Protests and riots continued across multiple towns and cities fueled by misinformation regarding a mass stabbing in Southport. Police chiefs said they had arrested 378 people since the start of the unrest and warned of lengthy prison terms for those found guilty of violent disorder. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has pledged a standing army of specialist police officers will tackle violent riots following an emergency Cobra meeting with police chiefs. Several countries, including Australia, Malaysia, Indonesia and Nigeria, have issued urgent travel alerts for those travelling to the UK, warning their citizens to stay away from demonstrations. And moving on, Tropical Storm Debbie drenched northern Florida on Monday and killed at least 6 people as the downgraded hurricane churned towards Georgia and the Carolinas, threatening a week of torrential downpours and flooding across the region. The slow-moving storm plowed into Florida's Gulf Coast as a Category 1 hurricane, making landfall near Steinhatchee, about 70 miles southeast of Tallahassee. Roughly 240,000 customers were without power in Florida. Hundreds of flights originating from and heading to Florida airports were cancelled on Monday. The 4th named storm of the season is also forecast to soak Georgia and South Carolina in the days ahead. And now to all the updates from Paris Olympics. Well, legendary Sweden's Armand Duplantis has set a new world record height of 6.25 meters after winning gold in the men's pole vault at the Paris Olympics on Monday. The 24-year-old had secured successive Olympic titles by clearing 6 meters. He has also set a new Olympic record of 6.10 meters. Meanwhile, he improved his world best of 6.24 meters that he set in April by 1 centimeter at his 3rd and final attempt. This is the 9th time Duplantis has broken the world record. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.